Mr. Sloane is a retired teacher.
Hey, I'm retired.
He works as a supply teacher and a private tutor for the local public school board. Discussion point 1. Mr. Sloane and Mr. Tate are both public school teachers and, as such, are covered by duties outlined in the Education Act, the OCT Act, and the OTF. He shows a picture of another teacher, Mr. Tate, as a participant in the Gay Pride Parade to school staff and makes comments that it was unwise for Mr. Tate to have allowed his picture to have been taken. He added that Mr. Tate would not be accepted by the community. Mr. Sloane brings up the photo with fellow colleagues as well as with his tutoring clients and claims that Mr. Tate is not being a good role model. Mr. Tate eventually approaches Mr. Sloane to discuss the matter, but Mr. Sloane refuses. Discussion point 2. Mr. Tate's participation in the Gay Pride Parade is a non-issue. He is entitled to attend and participate in the parade. There is no evidence that he was engaged in any sort of behavior that would offend the role model principle or undermine his credibility in the classroom. Mr. Sloane's conduct, by contrast, is unprofessional. Mr. Sloane speaks negatively about Mr. Tate to other teachers, parents, and students. He does not give Mr. Tate notice in writing of his complaints. Instead, he operates surreptitiously behind his back. His treatment of his colleague is against the OTF Act S-18. The principal also speaks to Mr. Sloane and tells him that negative or disparaging remarks about Mr. Tate's sexual orientation are unacceptable, and if Mr. Sloane has been making them, he should stop. Discussion point 3. Mr. Sloane ignores the principal's warnings that his behavior is unacceptable and he contributed to the hostile environment which Mr. Tate faces at school. This offends provisions of the Education Act that require him to cooperate with the principal regarding the maintenance of order and discipline at school. Within a few weeks, the school atmosphere has deteriorated. Students are allowed to mock Mr. Tate in math class in front of another teacher, who does nothing. Mr. Tate hears of the incident and reports it to his teachers' federation. Discussion point 4. Mr. Tate is entitled under the Ontario Human Rights Code as well as the Occupational Health and Safety Act and the Accepting Schools Act to a work environment free from harassment and discrimination. He has a right to appeal through his federation to the school board and the OCT to address the situation with Mr. Sloane. The school board begins an investigation and the principal cancels Mr. Sloane's teaching assignments for the duration of the investigation. Mr. Sloane telephones some of the parents of his students and asks them, successfully, to refuse to be interviewed as part of the investigation. Discussion point 5. Mr. Sloane's attempts to influence the OTF's investigation contravenes the OCT Professional Misconduct Guidelines. Mr. Sloane could be disciplined by the OTF and the OCT as well as the school board. Professional sanctions might include the revocation of his teacher certificate or limiting his teacher certificate until he completes education courses that address his discriminatory attitudes. If he is found guilty of professional misconduct by the OCT, he may have a fine imposed against him as well. Also, the case and findings could appear in the blue pages of Professionally Speaking, the official magazine of the OCT. Mr. Tate does not want to return to the school because he feels the atmosphere has been poisoned by the events.